3 out of 5 children born this year will live in a single-parent household, at least for part of their childhood. And as for parents, 44% of the children in the state of Virginia, according to one of these marvelous surveys, prefer their TV sets to their fathers. Although they do prefer their mothers to their TVs. The family home is the most dangerous place to be in the USA. That because statistics of homicides, say that one is more likely to be killed by a relative or by someone you know or someone already in the family than anywhere else or by anyone else. So that's a... Now, despite all this falling apart, the fantasy of the family holds and holds us fast. And it is a fantasy. Ronnie Lang said already in 1971 that the family system is to be understood from the interiority of the family as fantasy. That it is a fantasy experience. The members, there is no objective set of relations. There is a fantasy of a family going on in each person in what's called a family. So already he was, in his book, The Politics of the Family, was beginning to deliteralize family by saying that. And I think that's one of the things I want to do this weekend is expand the idea of it. And this talk this evening is called From Entrapment to Embrace, how to move our sense of being entrapped in a family pattern into embracing it or being in the embrace of it. So let's begin with that. Believing himself dying of monoxide poisoning in his hut near the South Pole, Admiral Richard E. Byrd penciled a last note as a last act of his life, believing he was going to die, a message to his wife, one to his children, and another to his mother. This is all recounted in his... This ordeal is recounted in his book called Alone, which was published a few years later when Byrd was... He wrote then, that is, he was absolutely in his hut, believing himself dying, unable to move, at the South Pole, this is in the 30s, and he wrote, "At the end, only 2 things really matter to a man regardless of who he is, and they are the affection and understanding of his family. Anything and everything else he creates are insubstantial. But the family is an everlasting anchorage." Now, I feel the Admiral was not expressing only the sentiments of his 1930s upper-middle-class Virginian culture, nor do I believe this faith in family as supreme value was only the necessary accompaniment of the heroic style. The hero, immersed in an epic, as was Byrd in this polar night at death's edge, locates himself inside a myth, in this case, the ancestral line of the family myth. But beyond both the bourgeois and the heroic is the primordial metaphor of family itself. We're born into a family, and at the last we rejoin its full extension when gathered to the ancestors. Family grave, family altar, family trust, family secrets, family pride. A death in the family is often where we first meet death. And we are made from the imaginations of our families, not just from the genes or the bodies of our families. We're made from the imaginations of our families. Our names are family names, our physiognomies bear family traits, and our dreams never let us depart from home, father and mother, brother and sister, from those faces and those rooms. Even alone and only ourselves, we are also always part of them and partly them. There seems to be no escape from the fate of family, and it is this amor fati, as the Romans called love of fate, that Admiral Byrd recognized at the very end of his life, turning the entrapment in the shelter that he believed would be his tomb into the quiet harbor of family. You see, the family came up in his mind as the sheltering, nourishing place in which he could die. So he turned the vice of no way out into a foundational virtue. And that's what I'd like to do this evening, is turn the vice of entrapment in the personal family